The weather may not have been great over the last few weeks, but that still doesn't mean there's lots to do in the garden. And this week, we're going to be looking at creating a sensory garden. So let's go and see what we have to do. You can stop pouring now, Trish. So joining us here again on the Kerry Garden Show is our garden expert Trish in a nice little corner of the garden centre. How are you, Trish?
I'm very good, thank you.
It's all about the senses this week.
It is indeed.
I'm sensing there's a bit of a breeze coming behind us, but there's a lot of things that can be got from the benefits of a garden. You can enjoy going out into the garden, getting some exercise. It can be a nice calming, relaxing, but we're going to focus today on the senses because it can also be a lot of people. You were only just saying the other day, someone came in for people with special needs.
Yes,
it's a great
exactly.
place. And how can we help people turn it into a nice place like that?
Yeah, like that now, as you say, for kids maybe that are adults that have special needs, but even for ourselves, Alan, it's fantastic to get out into the garden and to use all the senses that we have. Now, everyone knows we have 5 senses, whether it's the sight, the smell, the mouth, as in eating, and then hearing and the touch.
Yes.
So if you were to go on the 5 senses, there's actually plants to suit all of them. So it's very important when you're doing a sensory garden to come in, get advice from us, and we'll go through the different ones that we have for the senses. So I'll start off first with the touch.
Okay.
Now, like that, I suppose first of all, when you're starting up a sensory garden, you want a nice quiet area. So if you're in a built up area, you have to start off first of getting a quiet area, right? So whether it is putting up fencing to block the sound from outside and putting up trees, because even if you have trees that are deciduous and losing their leaves, the stems will actually filter the sound and it'll break it down.
Of course,
so that's your first thing in a garden, sensory garden, is to have a nice, quiet, calming atmosphere.
And as you said, I think everyone can benefit from
Everybody
a
benefits from it, yes.
from a nice quiet garden.
Yeah.
Okay, so that'll be the good starting point. So
Yes.
making sure it's
so have your
quiet.
surrounding area done first, that it's nice and quiet. So then you want to go, so as I say, I'm starting off with the touch sense.
Okay.
So if you have this leaf here, you can even feel it yourself. It's nice to touch.
Yeah,
and it's
very.
kind of,
Oh,
you know, it's kind of a
nearly
felty.
velvety.
Velvety,
velvety
exactly.
feel to it. So that's
something like that. And that one then is a Senecio Angel Wings is the name of it.
Angel Wings.
So that
lovely.
is fabulous. So you want to plant these then if you have a nice seating area.
Okay.
And pick your nice seating area, whether you have rugs on it and cushions on it to make it nice and comfortable for you. You could have plants like this even in a pot beside your seating area that you could just put out your hand, regardless of what you could be talking away to yourself, Ellen, and I could be touching this.
Yeah.
And it's actually lovely.
It
and it
is
gives a
really,
nice calming
really nice.
effect.
Yeah.
Now the other one, which is very, very popular, is your lamb's ears or statius. So
Right.
even if you touch that as well, again, it's got the feathery, leathery.
Oh my God,
it's
that is
fabulous,
so
absolutely
strange.
fabulous.
Yeah.
Now that can be planted into the ground. It does spread a bit. It goes
Okay.
up to about maybe 8 to 10 inches high and spreads out about a foot and a half. A lovely little pink flower on it then.
Oh, there's a flower as well,
There's a
because I was going to
flower
say
on
that
it.
there was no flower on
There's
the
no
other
flower
one.
on that.
This has got a pink flower.
This is a lovely pink flower, and it's kind of a carpet growing. So if you've got shrubs in the back and you just had a nice little carpet in front of it, and even if you were sitting down on a path and just rubbing it, like, it's really, really calming.
Wow.
So that would be great for the touch part of it. Obviously, there's loads of other touch ones as well, but we're just kind of touching on a few, few plants.
Well, I think they might even come into this. The grasses that we have over here, you know, are a different type of touch really as well, aren't they?
Exactly, touch, and also as well for your hearing.
Okay.
Because if you have the wind and the grass is blowing, it gives a nice rustling sound on it as well.
Yeah.
And a lot of these then kind of have like a feathery grass flower on the top of it then throughout the season.
Okay.
Colour would be quite important as well, that you have splashes of colour. So with the grasses, you see there in front of you, you've got the reds, you've got the blues you've got
as
the
well.
greens.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
So all of them are fabulous.
And that's the kind of plume you're talking about
Exactly.
there on this one. This is called fireworks. But
Fireworks, yeah.
You can go with the old Latin there.
The pennistum.
Pennistum,
Yeah,
so
and
it's
that
lovely.
is lovely. And again, when you're planting, okay, you might have the flowy texture and it's lovely and calming, but it's nice even to put something like this in through it with the echinacea.
Okay.
So that you actually have a lovely pink flower. And again, the growth of these then, they're just going straight up, they're a block of colour, and then that are complemented very well that's flowy. So you kind of have 2 different sensations going on at the same time.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that'd be lovely. And again, another one then as well is the fern.
The ferns, yeah.
I suppose when doing a sensory garden, don't just put all grasses or something. You definitely need to go with the different heights, the different textures, the different coloured flowers.
Yeah, give it a bit more structure.
Exactly, whether it's spikes of things or whatever,
Yeah.
it all adds to it.
Yeah.
And of course as well, it's lovely to introduce some butterflies into the garden.
Oh, yes.
Because even if you're sitting down or walking around, if you see butterflies
It
coming,
nearly calms you all in
does.
itself, wouldn't
and
it?
like
Just
the
to watch the
colours of the
beautiful
butterfly
thing.
then as well, they'd be fabulous. So this one is a scabiosa, which has got a lovely purpley flower on it, and it also comes in pink. And the masses of butterflies that comes in that is absolutely
It's a real
fabulous.
magnet for them.
Yeah. And then you've also got the one, which is the common name of it, is the butterfly bush.
Oh, okay, the butterfly bush, yeah.
And it's actually a buddleia, and they're fantastic for flowering. Now the one I have here is white, but you can also get it in purples and pinks as well. This is a dwarf one, because the people know buddleias from years ago. They went 12, 15 feet high,
jeez,
and they were really vigorous growing, and you just cut them back every spring and they keep growing up again.
Okay.
But that one is actually a dwarf one.
Okay,
And
so
the
it's a cultivated
flowers,
one,
it's a
and it's
cultivated,
especially
and
for-
it's a dwarf one, and that even would be lovely in a pot as well, or planted directly into the ground. Now you have to remember the textures of your garden as well, whether you want to put stone down or bark mulch.
Of course, yeah, because of, there is the whole thing of, if you're walking out in feet or socks and all of that sort of stuff, because they're all the senses that again can add to it. So whether it's a sand or a soft pebble, or as you were saying, maybe a bit of bark as well.
A bit of bark, because the bark will actually give off a scent then as well.
Of course, it's got that real woodland,
nice.
that woodland scent. So you've got another sense kind of coming through.
Going on, and as you were saying then, as you're walking, you can actually get a creeping thyme that you could actually plant.
A creeping
thyme, and it also has a purple flower, or you could get chamomile. Now both of them are herbs, but if you plant them on the ground, and you can actually walk on them with your bare feet,
okay, right,
and they'll actually release a fragrance up off it then as well.
Oh wow!
So they're fabulous. If you had all these different little areas in it, but as I say, come in here, we'll give you advice as to how to go about it.
So we've moved on to the smell now, haven't we?
Yes.
As you're holding the Nepeta in your hand.
Yes, the
again,
the catmint then, and again that has a lovely flowy flower with the purple flower in it, and that attracts your bees. Now I know a lot of people think, oh, the bees, I'll be stung, but not these ones.
Not at all.
No, they're
of course.
fine.
We've spoken before about the
but it's just people
fears.
still have a fear then that they're going to be.
Yeah.
So they're great to introduce more wildlife. Again, if you even put a bird box in the garden, that you're encouraging birds to come in. And then if you have your ladybirds, it's all these small little things just to encourage them into the garden.
And again, the visuals.
Yes,
the visuals
exactly. Now,
we're
as you were
going
saying,
through
the scent, we have some fabulous ones here. This is my favourite. It's a lemon verbena. So again, if you were walking along, you just kind of squash it then with your hand, and it releases a lemon scent.
Oh wow,
you
I
can even
smell
get
it. Yeah, it's very nice.
Now, the lemon is actually great for keeping away.
It'd be like a citronella candle.
Yes, exactly.
The
The
midges.
I was thinking of mosquitoes.
Oh well, we're not quite in the tropical climate, but the midges, they feel as bad.
Yeah. So if you had this around your seating area, it'll actually release it, and even anytime you're passing, just to do like that,
give
and
it a little
scent.
rub.
And even today now, with the wind blowing behind us, you can actually get the smell of that.
Yeah,
it's fabulous.
And of course, then we also, which we featured before, we have the lavender.
The all-time favourite is the lavender.
The lavender.
And the scent. Now again, with the lavender, there's a French lavender, there's an English lavender.
Yes.
They're the purpley flowers. I actually don't have the French, but it's there. We have it here in the garden centre, and they're fabulous to have.
Yeah.
And of course, then you have your rosemary. Now,
look at
the
this.
rosemary can be used both ways. You have the smell, but you can also eat it as well.
Yes,
you can add that into whatever you're cooking on your barbecue.
Did it put on a bit of lamb or something like that in the roast?
You said it, yeah.
Or any of the dishes you might want to make.
So they can be planted into the ground. Again, the soil for a lot of these herbs would be well-drained, sunny place.
Okay.
So, like we always say as well, just to keep in mind where the sun is shining, where the shade is, and we can pick out plants to suit that area then as well.
And are all of these, the ferns and everything like that, and the grasses, would they be all similar soil types?
The grasses would be kind of well drained. The ferns then were kind of like a shady area and kind of more moist area. A lot of the touching ones then with the grey foliage and soft velvety feel, they're all well drained areas as well. Well drained as well.
Okay.
And again, give a bit of height into the garden. Like we've got a lovely cordyline here. You can see even the spiky.
Yeah.
So even with the array of plants that we have here in front of us, you've got solid clumps, you've got big leaves, you've got different shapes, you've got flowers coming up. This is another beautiful one then for butterflies and bees. It's a verbena.
Yeah.
What that has, it goes extremely tall. You're talking about 6 foot high.
Oh right, wow.
And you have these long, thin stems and a tiny little purple flower on it.
Okay.
And they're absolutely fabulous. And even when the flower is finished, leave on the seed heads because the birds actually eat the seeds
brilliant.
out of it then.
Okay, so it's very good
as
for
I
the
say,
birds
you're
as
bringing
well.
in the birds as well. Mm-hmm. And of course behind you then, which is quite important, is water.
Oh yes, now the water feature. So this is another part of a sensory garden that a lot of people are kind of getting into, and there's a great selection of water features here. So we have the big, we have the Buddha, we have the old style, even for the fountains that you see in an old manor and stuff like that.
As you say, we've got the modern water features, or we've got the old style, we've got the different colours in them that it might be weathered looking. It depends in your garden what way you're going then as well. Now a lot of people think that we need a water source around our water features. You don't.
Okay.
There's a reservoir in it. So once you fill it up with water, that should do.
So the little pump really then just starts pumping it up.
Yeah, it pumps it up. Now, the only thing I would say to watching water features every now and again, just check the reservoir that it is full of water.
Okay.
Sometimes if you've got wind, what happens then? It kind of blows the water and it doesn't go back into the reservoir. So just every now and again, just to top up. You do need an electric source.
Okay, so electric source is probably the main thing.
Yeah, that's the main thing. And after that then.
Yeah.
And again with the water features, like even if you planted, some of plants in around the grasses, just to soften it, because a water feature on its own doesn't look nice.
Yeah.
It's too hard.
It needs to be surrounded by stuff. And I'm even looking behind you there, the old bamboo that you have as well too.
Yeah.
They'd work amazing amongst something like that. You'd look like you were in an oriental garden.
Now you said it. And like that, look, the sound of that then as well, the rustling, that is absolutely brilliant.
And the calming sounds of the water as well too.
Yeah, so the water is very important in a sensory garden, and also mirrors is another thing as well.
Okay.
Because if you have a mirror up against the back wall, the reflection of the garden you can see from every distance that you're walking up towards it, and that's actually quite good and calming then as well. And lights then is another thing. Have little surprises around the garden. Now these actually are like little rock lights.
Yeah, they're artificial rocks, but they've got a light in them.
Yes, exactly. So stick them under a shrub, so at night time then you see just some light coming out.
Yeah.
And then you have the ones
colourful
that you can,
ones.
Yeah, you can just hang over maybe a place where you're sitting down.
Yeah.
And then again another little surprise one.
A little pumpkin house.
A little pumpkin house. Now we have a range of fairy things as well.
Oh,
so
of course,
you
could have for the kids. There could be
for the kids.
The magic of fairies in the garden is always
but even
lovely
the
to
colour,
have.
the orange, it's a nice glow, and you're talking about lanterns, things like that.
And you could just imagine that in amongst some of these grasses and stuff.
Can.
It'd look really,
and again,
really nice.
as you say, camouflage a bit of grass around. You can even see in the box there, they have a nice shrub around it. And it's just lovely.
And another thing as well too, which a lot of people are, and obviously the sense of feeling a bit of heat would be very, very good.
Important these
and
nights.
we have some, especially these nights, we have some fire pits as well too. You have a great selection of fire pits.
We've a great selection of fire pits. We've only just a few there in front that you can see. But like that with fire pits, just be careful when you're starting them off as well, if you never had a fire pit before, that you actually have to put just a small little fire on it at the start, just to heat it up.
Okay.
Because if you put in a big huge fire blaring, you could actually crack it at the start.
Okay.
So at the first couple of fires that you start, nice and
just keep it small. Yeah.
Now don't put coal in, because
charcoal or wood.
Charcoal or wood is
are
the only
two.
Thing.
Really
are the only two. Charcoal, then you can get lovely flavours and their scents off that as well.
Okay.
You can get charcoal with maybe beef or lamb or
well, I would have thought more like the beech wood and the
and you can get all that as well.
Those kind of smells
all those
as well
smells.
too.
So you have all them going in, even if you had ordinary wood, and just throw in a couple of handfuls of the charcoal then.
Great.
So actually have a nice.
Yeah, and there's a nice little sale on the water features.
There is, yes, we have a sale on at the moment on the water features and
well
the
worth checking
fire
out.
pits.
And the other thing as well I love as well is you've got these little kind of windmills. There's lovely little ornaments again for kids
all
and stuff that add
sounds
to it.
like even the little spinners. There's just simple little things that you could even stick into the gravel or the soil and visual, and they just make a nice little sound then as well.
Beautiful. So there's lots of great ways that you can turn your garden into a sensory garden, into a relaxing space. Because that's it. We want really gardening to be relaxing. We want people to go out and feel like they're proud of their area and just sit back and relax.
Exactly,
so there's lots of things that can be done.
Life is so busy now, and I think the only little place where you can get away is your little garden. And to make the most of it.
Your little oasis of calm. Right, so there is lots of great ideas on how you could create your own little oasis of calm or a sensory garden. Just pop in here to Boyles of Killorglin or your local garden centre, and there's lots of great ideas how you could create that ideal space in your garden. Trish, as always, thank you so much, and for watching and listening. Do remember to check us out on Facebook and YouTube, and until next time, happy gardening.